Captain Vexelar stared at the communication screen with his three eyes, each blinking independently as he processed the distress signal. His blue skin had turned a pale shade, which happened whenever he was nervous. The message was clear and desperate. A mining outpost called Gamma 7 was under attack. Pirates were destroying everything. The captain's clawed fingers drummed on his command chair. He had been a merchant captain for 20 years, hauling cargo across the convergence zone. In all that time, he had learned one important rule: stay away from trouble. His ship, the Prosperity's Dawn, was built for carrying goods, not fighting battles. "Captain, the signal says it's the Kresh Marauders," his communications officer said. Her voice shook a little. Everyone knew about the Kresh. They were the most feared pirates in 3 sectors of space. Their ships had armor so thick that even military vessels avoided fighting them. The Kresh didn't just rob people. They destroyed everything and everyone just because they could. Vexelar felt his heart sink. The Tellurian Commerce Guild had very strict rules. Protect the cargo, protect the crew. Everything else was secondary. If he tried to help the mining outpost, his ship would be destroyed in minutes. He had 300 crew members depending on him to make smart choices. This wasn't a smart choice. "How far away is the nearest military patrol?" Vexelar asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. "At least 6 hours, sir," the navigation officer replied. "The distress call says they have maybe 40 minutes before their shields fail completely." Vexelar closed his eyes. 40 minutes. Those miners would be dead long before help arrived. It was the sad reality of space travel. The distances were too vast and help was always too far away. He had seen it happen before. Every captain had. "Sir, we have another ship on sensors," the sensor operator suddenly announced. "It's heading toward the distress signal. Moving fast. Who is it? Which faction?" Vexelar asked, leaning forward. Maybe it was a military ship. Maybe someone else would take the risk he couldn't. "Unknown, sir. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. The ship is broadcasting an identification code. It says, TRC Indomitable. They claim to be from the Terran Republic. They say they're human." Vexelar searched his memory. He had traveled to hundreds of systems and met dozens of different species. He had never heard of humans or any Terran Republic. He accessed the ship's main computer, which contained information about every known spacefaring species in the galaxy. The computer found nothing. "That's impossible," Vexelar muttered. "New species don't just appear in explored space. Run a complete scan of their ship." The sensor operator worked quickly, his fingers flying across the control panel. After a moment, he looked up with confusion on his face. "Sir, this is strange. The ship is relatively small for a warship, about 60% the size of our vessel. The design is very unusual. It looks almost primitive. And sir, I don't think it has energy shields." "No shields?" Vexelar couldn't believe it. Every ship in the galaxy had energy shields. They were the basic foundation of space travel and combat. Without shields, even a small meteor could punch through a hull. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. It has some kind of physical armor plating instead. Very thick armor, but it's not energy-based. I've never seen anything like it." Before Vexelar could respond, a new transmission crackled through the communication system. It was the Kresh commander. His voice was rough and filled with arrogance. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander Drac of the Kresh Marauder Fleet. You are entering a combat zone. Turn away immediately or you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." There was a pause. Then a new voice came through the speakers. It was different from any voice Vexelar had heard before. It was smooth but firm, with strange pronunciation on certain words. "Kresh vessel, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Republic Space Command ship Indomitable. We are responding to a distress call from civilians under attack. We decline your warning and will proceed to render assistance. We advise you to cease your attack immediately and withdraw from the area." Vexelar's mouth fell open. This human commander had just rejected the Kresh Marauders. She had basically told them to leave. Nobody talked to the Kresh like that, nobody. The Kresh commander's response came quickly, and he was laughing. It was not a pleasant sound. "Foolish creature. Your species must be very stupid or very ignorant. We will add your wreckage to the debris field around this outpost. Your destruction will teach others not to interfere with the Kresh." "Noted," the human commander said simply, proceeding to intercept. "Chen out." The communication ended. Vexelar stood up from his chair and walked closer to the main viewing screen. His crew was silent, all of them watching the sensor display that showed the positions of every ship in the area. The human ship, the Indomitable, was accelerating. The numbers on the screen kept climbing. 5 gravities, 10 gravities, 15 gravities, 20 gravities. The ship was pulling acceleration forces that should be impossible for any living crew to survive. "That can't be right," the navigation officer said. "Check the sensors again." At 20 gravities, any crew inside that ship would be crushed into paste. The sensor operator checked and rechecked. "The readings are correct, sir." "I don't understand it either." Vexillar felt a chill run through his body. What kind of species could survive 20 gravities of acceleration? What kind of world had they come from that would make such endurance necessary? "Set a course to follow them," Vexillar said suddenly. "Keep us at a safe distance, but I want to see what happens. Record everything." His crew looked at him with surprise, but they followed orders. The Prosperity's dawn changed direction, following the human ship from several thousand kilometers away. It was close enough to observe, but far enough to run if things went wrong. As they approached the mining outpost, Vexillar could see the Kresh fleet on his screen. 5 heavy raiders, each one bristling with weapons. They had formed a loose circle around the outpost, taking turns firing at its weakening shields. It was typical Kresh tactics. They liked to play with their prey, making the suffering last longer. The human ship appeared on the edge of the combat zone, and immediately the Kresh fleet changed formation. All 5 ships turned to face the newcomer. Vexillar had seen this before. The Kresh would focus all their firepower on the human ship. It would be over in seconds. "They're going to die," the communications officer whispered. "They came all this way to die." Vexillar said nothing. Part of him agreed. But another part of him, a small part he didn't fully understand, hoped he was wrong. The galaxy needed more people willing to answer distress calls. It needed more people willing to risk everything to save strangers. The Kresh fleet opened fire. Brilliant streams of plasma energy lanced across space, converging on the small human ship. The Prosperity's dawn sensors automatically dimmed the viewing screen to protect the crew's eyes from the intense light. When the light faded, Vexillar expected to see debris. Instead, the human ship was still there, still moving forward. Its armor was glowing white-hot from the plasma impacts, but it hadn't exploded. It hadn't even slowed down. "Impossible," Vexillar breathed. Then the human ship opened fire, and Captain Vexillar realized that impossible was about to become very, very real. The human ship moved like nothing Vexillar had ever seen before. As the Kresh fleet continued pouring plasma fire into it, the Indomitable began to rotate. It spun on its central axis while maintaining its forward momentum, presenting fresh armor sections to the incoming fire, while the superheated areas rotated away to cool. "That's brilliant," the navigation officer said with awe in his voice. "They're cycling their armor. Without energy shields, they adapted to rotate the ship itself." Vexillar watched in fascination. The maneuver should have been impossible. The rotational forces alone should have turned the crew into a spinning mess, but the human ship executed the movement perfectly. Every few seconds it would flip or spin, always keeping the coolest armor facing the enemy guns. Then the Indomitable fired back. The first weapon discharge looked wrong on the sensors. There was no energy bloom, no plasma signature, no particle beam. Instead, the sensors detected something moving. A physical object accelerating at speeds that approached a significant fraction of light speed. "What was that?" Vexillar demanded. The sensor operator's hands flew across his controls. "Sir, I think they just fired a solid projectile. A piece of metal accelerated by magnetic rails. It's an ancient design called a railgun. Nobody has used kinetic weapons like this in thousands of years. Why would they use such primitive technology?" the communications officer asked. The answer came a split second later when the projectile hit the lead Kresh raider. The solid round, moving at a substantial percentage of light speed, punched through the Kresh ship's energy shields as if they weren't there. Energy shields were designed to disperse heat and deflect charged particles. They did almost nothing against solid matter moving that fast. The projectile tore through the raider from bow to stern. The kinetic energy transfer was catastrophic. The Kresh ship literally broke in half, its internal compartments explosively decompressing. Secondary explosions rippled along both pieces as power systems overloaded and ammunition stores cooked off. Total time from impact to complete destruction: 3 seconds. The Kresh fleet's formation broke apart as the remaining 4 ships tried to spread out. Their commander's voice came across all frequencies, no longer arrogant but filled with shock and confusion. "What kind of weapon is that? How did it penetrate our shields?" The human commander didn't respond. The Indomitable launched 2 more projectiles in rapid succession. The second Kresh Raider tried to dodge, but the targeting was too precise. The round caught it in the midsection, and the ship crumpled like paper. The third Raider brought its shields to maximum power in the front, layering them for extra protection. It didn't matter. The kinetic round hit with such force that it shattered the shield generators themselves. Without shields, the ship's armor couldn't handle the impact. Another Kresh vessel turned into expanding debris. 3 ships destroyed in less than 30 seconds, Vexlar muttered. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The Kresh marauders had terrorized this region of space for decades. They were supposed to be nearly invincible, yet the humans were tearing through them like they were made of nothing. The 4th Kresh ship tried something different. It launched a full spread of missiles, 24 high-explosive warheads programmed to home in on the human ship. Vexlar had seen these missiles used before. Each one carried enough explosive power to severely damage a cruiser. The Indomitable's response was immediate. Small turrets along its hull, which Vexlar hadn't even noticed before, opened fire. These weren't railguns. They were rapid-fire ballistic cannons, spewing thousands of rounds per minute. The projectiles were small, but there were so many of them that they created a literal wall of metal between the ship and the incoming missiles. The missiles exploded harmlessly against the defensive fire. A few got through, but they detonated against the Indomitable's thick armor plating, leaving scorched craters but causing no critical damage. Then the human ship did something that made Vexlar's blood run cold. It accelerated directly at the 4th Kresh Raider, not at a safe combat distance, but in a direct collision course. The human ship's engines burned at full power, pushing it faster and faster toward the enemy vessel. "They're going to ram it," the navigation officer said in disbelief. "That's insane." At the last possible moment, the Indomitable fired its maneuvering thrusters. The ship executed a sharp vector change that should have been impossible for something that size moving that fast. It passed within 100 meters of the Kresh Raider, and as it did, it released something from an external port. "Explosive charge deployed," the sensor operator reported. "Manual release, physical detonation trigger. Sir, I think they just dropped a bomb on that ship." The explosion that followed was enormous. The shaped charge detonated against the Kresh Raider's hull, and the blast penetrated deep into the ship's interior. The Raider's power core went critical, and the entire vessel vanished in a brilliant flash of light. 4 down, 1 remaining. The last Kresh Raider was already turning to run. Its commander had finally realized that he was completely outmatched. The ship's engines burned at maximum power, trying to reach a safe distance to jump to faster-than-light speed. Vexlar expected the human ship to let it go. 4 out of 5 was an incredible victory. There was no need to risk chasing the last one. But the Indomitable pursued. It matched the fleeing Raider's acceleration and then exceeded it, closing the gap in seconds. This time, the human ship didn't fire its railgun. Instead, it launched a different type of projectile. This one had its own engine and guidance system. A missile, but not like any missile Vexlar had seen before. It was incredibly fast and agile, making course corrections that seemed to predict where the Kresh ship would dodge before it even moved. The Kresh Raider tried everything. It fired its weapons backward, launched its own missiles, released chaff and decoys. Nothing worked. The human missile weaved through every defensive measure and struck the Raider's main engine assembly. The explosion disabled the ship but didn't destroy it. The Kresh Raider went dark, tumbling through space with no power and no shields. It was helpless but intact. The crew was probably still alive inside. "Interesting," Vexlar said quietly. "They disabled it rather than destroying it. They gave the crew a chance to survive." The Indomitable immediately changed course, heading toward the mining outpost. Its weapons powered down, and it broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. "This is Commander Chen of the Terran Republic ship Indomitable to the crew of Gamma 7 mining outpost. The hostile forces have been neutralized. What is your status? Do you require assistance?" A shaky voice responded from the outpost. "This is Outpost Manager Krell. We're alive. Our shields are at 7%, and we have hull breaches on 3 levels, but we're alive. Thank you. Thank you so much. We thought we were dead. Glad we could help, Manager Krell. We're dispatching a damage assessment team. Please provide us with a safe docking port." The exchange was calm and professional, as if the human commander had just finished a routine patrol rather than an impossible combat victory. Vexlar couldn't understand it. The humans had just accomplished something that would be told in stories for years, yet they acted like it was nothing special. The Indomitable began a slow approach to the mining outpost, and Vexillar realized something. The human ship was coming very close to the Prosperity's Dawn. They had noticed his ship hanging back, watching the entire battle. "Sir, we're being hailed by the human vessel," the communications officer said nervously. Vexillar straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and for the first time, Vexillar saw a human. Commander Sarah Chen appeared on the display. She was bipedal, with strange, smooth skin that had a brownish tint. Her face was flat with two forward-facing eyes that locked onto him immediately. Those eyes bothered him. They were predator's eyes designed to track moving prey. "Greetings," Commander Chen said. Her mouth moved in a strange way when she spoke, showing flat teeth and sharp-pointed ones in the corners. "I'm Commander Sarah Chen of the TRSC Indomitable. I noticed your vessel was in the area. Did your ship sustain any damage during the engagement?" Vexillar found his voice. "No, Commander. We were observing from a safe distance. I am Captain Vexillar of the Tellurian Commerce Guild ship Prosperity's Dawn. I must say, Commander, that was the most incredible display of combat skill I have ever witnessed. I have questions." "Many questions." The human smiled, which involved showing even more of her teeth. Vexillar wasn't sure if that was meant to be friendly or threatening. "I'd be happy to answer what I can, Captain. But first, do you require an escort to the nearest safe port? This area might attract more pirates." Vexillar realized that despite just winning an impossible battle, the human's first concern was his safety. These humans were strange indeed. The journey to the nearest safe port took 6 hours. The Indomitable flew beside the Prosperity's Dawn the entire way, maintaining a protective position. Vexillar used the time to observe the human ship more carefully and to speak with Commander Chen through several communication sessions. Each conversation revealed more surprising information. The humans had only developed faster-than-light travel 18 months ago. 18 months. Most species spent decades, sometimes centuries, exploring their local space before venturing into the wider galaxy. Yet here the humans were, crossing vast distances and engaging in combat as if they had been spacefaring for generations. "Commander Chen, I must ask," Vexillar said during their third conversation. "How did your ship survive those plasma impacts? Without energy shields, your armor should have melted." Chen leaned back in her chair. Behind her, Vexillar could see other humans working at various stations. They all had those same forward-facing predator eyes and alert postures. "Our armor is a ceramic metallic composite designed to ablate under extreme heat. It vaporizes in layers, carrying the heat away from the ship's interior. We also use a rotational cooling technique that you probably observed." "Yes, but the forces involved," Vexillar pressed. "The rotation speed, the acceleration, the sharp vector changes. How does your crew survive the gravitational forces? 20 gravities would kill most species instantly." Chen's expression became thoughtful. "Captain, where is your homeworld? What's the surface gravity?" "Telluria has a surface gravity of approximately 0.7 standard galactic units," Vexillar replied. "It's quite comfortable." "Earth, our homeworld, has a gravity of about 1.4 standard galactic units," Chen said. "We evolved in high gravity. Our bodies are designed to withstand significant force. We also use inertial dampening systems that reduce the felt acceleration by about 60%. Combined with our natural durability and specialized training, our crews can handle forces that might seem extreme to other species." Vexillar felt his skin turn pale again. 1.4 gravities? That was enormous. Some species would be crushed under their own weight in that kind of gravity. "Commander, forgive me, but that's classified as a high-gravity world. Very few species evolve on planets like that." "We've learned that since leaving Earth," Chen admitted. "Apparently we come from what the galaxy calls a death world. It has been an educational experience." Death world. Vexillar had heard the term before. They were planets where everything seemed designed to kill the inhabitants. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, unstable geology, high radiation levels. The fact that Earth was a death world explained so much about human capabilities. "Your weapons," Vexillar said, changing the subject. "Kinetic projectiles. Why use such old technology?" Chen smiled that teeth-showing smile again. Because they work, Captain. Energy shields are excellent against energy weapons. They're not designed to stop solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. We looked at what the galaxy was using and found a gap in the defenses. Our railguns are old technology, yes, but refined to incredible precision. We can put a tungsten penetrator through a target the size of your fist from 1,000 kilometers away. But the cost, Vexlar protested. Manufacturing physical ammunition, carrying it aboard ship, the weight limitations. We use refined materials from asteroids, Chen explained. The ammunition is dense but not particularly expensive. And regarding weight, our ships are built in zero-gravity shipyards. We don't have the same weight limitations as species that build their ships on planetary surfaces. We can carry thousands of rounds without significant issues. Every answer led to more questions. The humans thought differently, approached problems from angles that seemed strange to galactic standard thinking. It was unsettling but also fascinating. Commander, I've transmitted all my sensor records of the battle to my superiors in the Commerce Guild and to the Galactic Council, Vexlar admitted. I hope that doesn't offend you, but first contact protocols require it. We expected that, Captain, Chen said without concern. We knew that engaging the creche would attract attention. We're prepared for it. In fact, our government has been trying to establish formal contact with the Galactic Council for months. Your recordings might actually help speed up that process. Vexlar was surprised by her calm acceptance. Most species were very protective of their military capabilities, especially when they were new to the galactic stage. The humans seemed almost eager to be observed and assessed. They arrived at Unity Station, a neutral trading hub that served as a waypoint for ships from a dozen different factions. As they approached, Vexlar's communication system lit up with incoming messages. Dozens of them. Ships in the area wanted to know about the human vessel. The station master requested immediate details about the unknown ship. Several military vessels that were docked at the station went on alert status. It seems your arrival is causing quite a stir, Vexlar told Chen. We're used to it, she replied. Captain, it's been an honor meeting you. We hope this is the beginning of a positive relationship between humanity and the galaxy. The Indomitable docked at Unity Station using a temporary airlock connection. Within minutes, station security surrounded the docking port. They weren't hostile, but they were cautious. No one knew what to expect from these humans. Vexlar watched from the station's observation deck as Commander Chen and 3 other humans exited their ship. They wore form-fitting uniforms that looked both practical and somehow intimidating. They moved with a fluid grace that spoke of excellent muscle control and physical conditioning. The station master, a Quellan named Brix, greeted them personally. Quellans were large, crystalline beings that communicated through light patterns. Brix's colors flickered nervously as he welcomed the humans. Greetings, visitors. I am Station Master Brix. Welcome to Unity Station. We have many questions about your species and your remarkable vessel. Chen bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. Thank you, Station Master. We're happy to answer questions. We're explorers and peaceful traders, but we also respond to distress calls when we encounter them. The mining outpost was in danger, and we had the capability to help. Yes, we've received the sensor recordings, Brix said, his colors shifting to show interest. Your combat methods are most unusual. The creche marauders have been a problem in this sector for many years. You destroyed 4 of their ships and disabled a 5th in under 5 minutes. Several governments are very interested in understanding how you accomplish this. We'd be willing to discuss our capabilities with appropriate representatives, Chen said diplomatically. Though I should mention that we're not mercenaries. We don't hire out our military. We help those in need because it's the right thing to do. Those words spread through the station like wildfire. Vexlar heard them repeated in a dozen different languages over the next hour. A new military power had arrived, and they claimed to help people simply because it was right. Many were skeptical. Others were hopeful. Some were frightened. Vexlar spent the rest of the day filing reports and answering questions from his superiors. The Commerce Guild wanted to know everything about the humans. Were they potential trade partners? Did they control valuable resources? Were they a threat to existing trade routes? He also learned that he wasn't the only one who had encountered humans. Over the past month, human ships had been spotted in 17 different systems. They were exploring, mapping, and making contact with various species. They had helped a transport ship repair its engine. They had warned a colony about an incoming meteor. They had even shared medical supplies with a research station that had lost its shipment to pirates. A pattern was emerging. The humans were active, curious, and helpful. They also seemed to have no fear of dangerous situations that made other species cautious. That evening, Vexlar received an invitation to dinner from Commander Chen. She wanted to share a meal and continue their conversation in a less formal setting. Vexlar accepted, curious about what human food might be like. The dinner was held in a neutral conference room on Unity Station. Chen and 2 other humans had prepared something they called a buffet. There were many different dishes, some that smelled pleasant and others that made Vexlar's eyes water. "Fair warning, Captain," Chen said with amusement. "Some of our food is spiced with chemicals that might be overwhelming for other species. We've marked the safe dishes for general consumption." They ate and talked for hours. Chen explained that Earth had thousands of different cultures, each with unique foods, languages, and traditions. She described oceans that covered most of the planet, mountains that reached into the clouds, and deserts where nothing grew for hundreds of kilometers. She also told him about Earth's history. The humans had spent most of their existence fighting wars against each other, nation against nation, ideology against ideology. They had come close to destroying themselves several times with their own weapons. "Then why are you so peaceful now?" Vexlar asked. Chen's expression became serious. "Because we learned, Captain. We learned that our capacity for violence needed to be directed toward protecting others, not harming them. When we finally achieved space travel and discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we made a collective decision. We would be better. We would use our strength to help, not hurt." The recording of the battle spread across the galactic communication networks faster than anything Vexlar had ever seen. Within 3 days, billions of beings across hundreds of worlds had watched the human ship destroy the Kresh raiders. The footage had been analyzed by military experts, discussed by politicians, and debated by ordinary citizens in every corner of known space. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from 43 member species gathered in the Great Chamber on the neutral world of Concordia. Vexlar watched the proceedings through a public broadcast, fascinated by the different reactions. The Zenthari Empire, a militaristic society that prided itself on combat prowess, demanded to know everything about human weapons technology. Their representative, a tall armored being with multiple limbs, spoke with barely contained excitement. "These humans have developed weapons that bypass our primary defensive systems. We must establish military cooperation with them immediately. Their kinetic weapons could revolutionize warfare." The Lumine Collective, a peaceful species that had achieved space travel through cooperation rather than competition, had a different perspective. Their representative glowed with soft, warm colors as she spoke. "What impresses us is not their weapons, but their choice to help strangers. The humans traveled toward danger to save people they had never met. This speaks to their character. We should welcome them as friends." The Hive Consensus, a species of interconnected insectoid beings, expressed caution. Their representative spoke in a unified voice that represented thousands of individual minds. "The humans are an unknown variable. They come from a death world. They possess unusual physical capabilities and advanced weapons. They claim peaceful intentions. But we have learned to be wary of powerful newcomers. We recommend careful observation before any formal agreements." The debate went on for hours. Some species saw opportunity. Others saw threat. A few saw kindred spirits. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity's arrival had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Kresh Marauder clans were dealing with their own crisis. The destruction of 5 ships in a single engagement was a catastrophic loss. More importantly, it was humiliating. The Kresh had built their reputation on being unstoppable. That reputation was now shattered. The Kresh High Council met in their hidden base deep in the Outer Rim territories. The council chamber was dark and filled with the scarred, battle-hardened leaders of various raider clans. They were not happy. "These humans must be destroyed," growled Warlord Kreshitar, the eldest member of the council. We cannot allow this insult to stand. Every small clan will think they can challenge us if we don't respond with overwhelming force. Agreed, said another warlord. Put a bounty on human ships. 1 million credits for every human vessel destroyed. We'll show the galaxy what happens when someone challenges the Kresh. The bounty was announced across criminal networks throughout the galaxy. Pirates, mercenaries, and bounty hunters began looking for human ships. It didn't take long for someone to find one. 3 Kresh battlecruisers, larger and more powerful than the raiders that had attacked the mining outpost, tracked down a human exploration vessel called the Curiosity. The ship was surveying an uninhabited system, completely unaware that it had been marked for destruction. The Kresh ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a standard ambush formation, surrounding the exploration vessel on 3 sides. The Kresh commander broadcast his intentions clearly. Human vessel, you are marked for death. This is retribution for your species' attack on Kresh forces. Prepare to die. The response from the Curiosity was not what the Kresh expected. The ship's captain, a human named James Park, sounded almost bored. Kresh vessels, the ship you attacked was responding to a distress call. You were committing piracy and murder. If you continue this unprovoked aggression, we will defend ourselves. This is your only warning. The Kresh commander laughed and gave the order to fire. All 3 battle cruisers opened up with their full weapons arrays. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and particle beams all converged on the small exploration ship. The Curiosity's armor glowed white-hot, but it didn't break. The ship began its rotation pattern, cycling its armor just like the Indomitable had done. But then something new happened. Small objects launched from the Curiosity in dozens of different directions. They looked like missiles, but they were behaving strangely. They weren't heading toward the Kresh ships. Instead, they spread out into a wide formation around the battle area. What are those? The Kresh weapons officer asked. Unknown, sir. They're not attacking. They're just positioning themselves. Seconds later, the objects activated. Each one was an autonomous drone carrying a kinetic weapon system. They were AI-guided, capable of independent targeting and decision-making. The Curiosity had just deployed a swarm of intelligent weapons that could attack from any angle. The drones opened fire simultaneously. Tungsten rounds hit all 3 Kresh battlecruisers from multiple directions at once. The cruisers' shields, designed to protect against frontal assaults, couldn't handle attacks coming from 36 different angles simultaneously. The first cruiser lost its shield generators within seconds. Follow-up shots from the Curiosity's main railgun punched through its armor. The second cruiser tried to focus its point defense systems on the drones, but there were too many of them, moving too unpredictably. It was crippled by a drone strike to its engine section. The third cruiser attempted to retreat, but the drones pursued. They were small, fast, and relentless. The cruiser made it less than 100 kilometers before its power systems failed and it went dark. The entire engagement lasted 4 minutes. 3 Kresh battlecruisers destroyed by a single exploration vessel. The Curiosity's captain broadcast a message on all frequencies. To any Kresh forces or bounty hunters listening, we are peaceful explorers, but we will defend ourselves when attacked. We have the capability to protect our ships and our people. Choose your actions wisely. The recording of that battle spread across the galaxy even faster than the first one. The message was clear. Attacking humans was a very bad idea, even if they weren't military vessels. The Kresh quietly withdrew the bounty. It was never officially announced, but word spread through criminal networks that human ships were off limits. The cost was too high and the success rate was 0. Other factions began reaching out to the Terran Republic. The Tellurian Commerce Guild, impressed by the humans' sense of honor and their protection of trade routes, offered a preliminary trade agreement. They wanted to exchange goods and establish regular contact. The Zenthari Empire sent military attachés to Earth, hoping to learn about human combat doctrine and possibly establish a mutual defense treaty. They were fascinated by the idea that humans trained for combat in high-gravity environments and wondered if such training could benefit their own warriors. The Lumini Collective sent cultural ambassadors, interested in human art, music, and philosophy. They discovered that humans had created thousands of different forms of artistic expression across their history. The Lumini were particularly moved by human music, which seemed to carry deep emotional resonance. Even the cautious hive consensus began to warm to the humans, after a human medical ship provided assistance during a disease outbreak on one of their colony worlds. The humans had shared their medical knowledge freely, asking for nothing in return except the opportunity to learn about hive biology. Vexillar found himself becoming something of an expert on humans. He was interviewed by news services, consulted by government officials, and invited to speak at academic institutions. Everyone wanted to know about his experience with the Indomitable and Commander Chen. He told them what he had learned. Humans were tough because they came from a tough world. They were innovative because they had spent their entire history solving impossible problems. They were protective because they understood what it meant to be vulnerable. And they were trustworthy because they had learned, through hard experience, that trust was precious and easily broken. The humans are not perfect, Vexillar explained during one interview. They have conflicts and disagreements like any species. But they have made a choice to be better than their history. They have chosen to use their strength to protect rather than dominate. That choice defines them more than their weapons or their ships. As weeks passed, more human ships appeared throughout the galaxy. They were always willing to help, always professional, and always surprisingly capable when trouble arose. They rescued stranded ships, defended trade convoys, and provided assistance during natural disasters. Pirates began avoiding certain trade routes entirely, knowing that a human patrol might be nearby. Slavers found their operations disrupted by human interference. The weak and vulnerable, who had always been easy prey in the harsh reality of space travel, suddenly had protectors who actually showed up when called. The galaxy was changing. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power was shifting not through conquest or intimidation, but through the simple act of showing up and helping when help was needed. And everyone was still trying to understand exactly what had just happened. 6 months after the first encounter with the Indomitable, the Galactic Council formally invited the Terran Republic to send a delegation to Unity's Reach, the largest diplomatic station in known space. The invitation was unprecedented. Normally, new species had to petition for years before being granted even preliminary meetings. But the humans were not a normal case. Captain Vexillar received his own invitation to attend the conference as a witness and informal consultant. The Commerce Guild valued his first-hand experience with humans and wanted him present during the negotiations. He accepted immediately, curious to see how the galaxy would formally respond to humanity. Unity's Reach was an impressive structure, a massive station that could house representatives from hundreds of different species simultaneously. It had environmental zones for every type of biology, from methane breathers to silicon-based life forms. The central conference chamber was designed to accommodate everyone, with translation systems that could handle thousands of languages. When Vexillar arrived, the station was already buzzing with activity. Diplomats, military officials, scientists, and journalists from across the galaxy had gathered for what many were calling the most important first contact in galactic history. The human delegation arrived on a ship called the Endeavor. It was larger than the Indomitable, but still built with the same practical, efficient design that characterized human vessels. The delegation was led by Admiral Marcus Rodriguez, a senior military officer, along with civilian diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives. Commander Chen was also present, now promoted to Captain. Vexillar watched from the observation deck as the humans disembarked. There were 12 of them, representing different regions and cultures of Earth. They moved with that same confident grace he had noticed before, comfortable in their bodies and aware of their surroundings. The opening ceremony was formal and traditional. The Galactic Council's speaker, an ancient Quellan named Zareth who had served for over 2 centuries, welcomed the humans officially. We gather today to welcome a new species to the galactic community. The humans of Earth have demonstrated both capability and character in their brief time among the stars. We have many questions, and we hope this conference will provide understanding and establish the foundation for future cooperation. Admiral Rodriguez stepped forward to respond. He was an older human with gray hair and deep lines on his face, but he moved with the same athletic ability as the younger humans. When he spoke, his voice was strong and clear. Speaker Zareth, honored representatives, we thank you for this opportunity. Humanity is new to the stars, and we have much to learn from species with thousands of years of spacefaring experience. We come here in peace with open hands and open minds. We hope to build friendships that will benefit all our peoples. The formal pleasantries completed, the real work began. The conference was divided into multiple sessions covering different topics: technology, culture, military capabilities, trade, and diplomacy. Vexlar attended the cultural exchange sessions, where he hoped to learn more about the human perspective. A human scientist named Dr. Sarah Kim gave a presentation about Earth. She showed images of the planet, and the representatives in the chamber gasped at what they saw. Earth was beautiful but terrifying. Massive storms swirled across the surface. Earthquakes shattered the ground. Volcanoes spewed molten rock into the sky. Hurricanes the size of small moons formed over the oceans. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, Dr. Kim explained. The gravity is higher than most inhabited planets. The atmosphere has high oxygen content that would be toxic or flammable to many species. The weather systems are violent and unpredictable. Seismic activity is common, and the planet is home to millions of species competing for survival, many of them quite dangerous. She showed videos of Earth's predators, creatures called lions that hunted in coordinated packs, massive reptiles called crocodiles with jaws strong enough to crush bone, creatures that lived in the oceans, some larger than most starships with teeth the size of a person's arm. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Dr. Kim continued. We chased prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can run for hours without stopping. We can survive with minimal water. We heal from injuries that would be fatal to many species. Our immune systems fight off countless diseases and infections. We adapted to survive on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. A Lumine representative raised a glowing tendril to ask a question. Dr. Kim, if your planet is so dangerous, why do you speak of it with such affection? Most species that evolve on difficult worlds express relief when they finally escape to space. Dr. Kim smiled. That teeth-showing expression that Vexlar now understood was meant to show happiness. Because Earth made us who we are. Yes, it was harsh. Yes, our ancestors struggled. But that struggle taught us to be strong, to work together, to never give up. We love our planet because it's our home, and because surviving it proved that we can survive anything. The session moved to human culture. A diplomat named Ambassador James Okafor spoke about human art, music, literature, and philosophy. He explained that Earth had thousands of different cultures, each with unique traditions and perspectives. We have fought many wars, Okafor admitted. Humans have killed other humans over resources, territory, ideology, and religion. We are not proud of this history, but those conflicts taught us the cost of division. When we finally achieved space travel and discovered we were not alone, we realized something important. Our differences as humans were tiny compared to the differences between species. We chose to unite, to put aside our conflicts and present a unified front to the galaxy. But you still maintain military forces. A Zenthari representative pointed out. Your ships are heavily armed. You have responded to threats with overwhelming force. How do you reconcile this with your claims of peaceful intentions? Admiral Rodriguez answered this question. We believe in peace, but we're not naive. The galaxy has dangers: pirates, slavers, aggressive empires. We will not stand by while innocents suffer when we have the power to help. Our military doctrine is simple. Protect the innocent, defend the weak, and respond to aggression with sufficient force to end the threat quickly. We don't see conflict, but we don't run from it either. Your weapons are unusual, the Zenthari continued. Kinetic projectiles, autonomous drones, explosive charges. Most species abandoned such primitive technology thousands of years ago. Rodriguez nodded. We looked at what everyone else was using and found gaps. Energy shields are excellent, but they have weaknesses. We exploited those weaknesses. Our philosophy is to use what works, regardless of whether it's considered modern or primitive. A simple solution that succeeds is better than a complex solution that fails. The military capabilities session was intense. Representatives from various powers wanted to know exactly what humans could do. Rodriguez was diplomatic but firm. He explained general principles without revealing specific details. Our ships are built for durability and redundancy. We assume systems will fail in combat, so we design multiple backups. Our crews train in high-gravity environments to build physical resilience. We use a combination of AI assistance and human judgment in combat situations, and we drill constantly, preparing for every scenario we can imagine. A Hive consensus representative asked the question many were thinking. Admiral, your species is clearly formidable in combat. What prevents you from using that capability to conquer, rather than protect? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment before answering. Our history prevents us. We know what we're capable of. We've seen what happens when powerful beings choose conquest over cooperation. We fought those wars ourselves and nearly destroyed our own planet in the process. We decided collectively that we would be better. That decision wasn't easy, and maintaining it isn't easy, but it's the choice we've made and we intend to honor it. But what if you change your minds? The Hive representative pressed. What if future human generations decide to use their power differently? Then the galaxy will have to stop us, Rodriguez said simply. Just as we would help stop any species that chose conquest over cooperation. Power without accountability is tyranny. We accept that the galaxy has every right to judge us by our actions. That answer seemed to satisfy many of the representatives. It was honest, acknowledging both human capabilities and human fallibility. Captain Vexlar had a private dinner with Captain Chen on the last evening of the conference. They met in a small restaurant that specialized in serving food compatible with multiple species biologies. Captain, I've been thinking about something, Vexlar said as they ate. 6 months ago, I watched your ship fight the Kresh. I was terrified and amazed. Now, after this conference, I understand humans better, but I still have a question. Ask it, Chen encouraged. Why do you help? Truly, why? You could ignore distress calls. You could focus on your own territories and interests. Many species do exactly that. But you consistently respond to danger, put yourselves at risk.